Thank you everyone for attending virtual JNUC 2020. We're going to get started in just a second, but this is the Assessing Student Learning Objectives Remotely and Effectively, One School Story.
Hi, I'm Brian Messenger, the District Coordinator of Classroom Instructional Technology and Student Achievement for the Sewanhaka Central High School District.
I'm Aaron Maxim, a Principal Sales Engineer at Jamf. I've evangelized purpose-built mobile enterprise apps a while at Jamf, and this is one of the most fulfilling projects to be a part of in my career.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Uresco, and I'm an implementation engineer here at Jamf. Implementation engineers work with both current and prospective customers to develop unique and advanced workflows. 2, we build out integrations to further solidify their implementation of the Jamf platform in their environment.
Hi, my name is Sam, and I'm a Solution Partner Manager at Jamf. Solution Partner Managers typically work with third parties developing against the Jamf developer tools, APIs, webhooks, and app config. We also work on special projects, and I've been connected with Brian at Sewanhaka for a few years tackling the problem of assessments. Quickly, before we dive in, I want to give a quick agenda. We're going to start with Brian giving a backstory of the why. Why did we have to go down the road of solving the remote proctored assessment problem at Sewanhaka? And we're going to very deeply dive into the problem at hand, the pros and cons to existing solutions to solve the problem. Then we're going to move into the collaboration and development portion, which is where we had Jamf engineers working on solving this problem for assessment in a scalable way that would work for not just Sewanhaka, but for all districts. And then we're going to wrap up by talking about that solution, an app that we call Assessment, powered by Jamf.
So one day, I get a phone call from a teacher who says, I have a student with a problem. I'm all ears. The student apparently is trying to complete his college placement exam using a College Board product called AccuPlacer, and is being told that he cannot complete this test on an iPad, that iPads are prohibited on this placement exam. Unfortunately, the student's only access to the internet was through his school-issued iPad. He had no access to a PC at home, no access to a laptop at home, and in the middle of a pandemic couldn't access community resources like a computer lab in a school or public computers in a library. The only option was this iPad, and the student was at a loss, did not know what to do. I reached out to the college and said, could you explain to me why they can't take this on an iPad? I was told that this is a policy of the College Board, that their AccuPlacer exam is not secure on an iPad, which kind of seemed interesting to me. So I reached out to the College Board, and they were most helpful and receptive. And they basically said, we've never been able to get the iPad to meet our security parameters, the things we need a device to do to keep this test secure. But if you can make it work, we'll be happy to allow this student and any other students use AccuPlacer on iPad. So immediately, I felt a good challenge to help students, and that's what we do as educators. You help a student. And I immediately reached out to my friend Sam Weiss at Jamf, who knows a little something about helping students. He's worked with us on some other projects before. And of course, Sam immediately was up to the challenge. He enlisted help from his friends Jonathan and Aaron at Jamf. And we set upon this journey, all started with the notion of helping one student with a particular problem he was having. And we found new ways to leverage our iPads to assist our students. And I'll let them explain the technical details of this whole adventure.
Brian and I did some initial scoping based on what we know about iPadOS and MDM to see if there were any native or out-of-the-box tools that could help us solve this problem. The first thing that we tried was Zoom's native screen sharing. And this is a relatively new feature, but we just wanted to make sure if there wasn't some reason that this had been overlooked as an easy option. And sure enough, the moment you go to share your screen in any video conferencing platform, the video goes away. Our second attempt involved using Zoom's built-in browser functionality, where we could have supposedly brought up the test on one side and had the camera as a floating object, but unfortunately, the College Board AccuPlacer exam, as well as most other high-stakes exams, involve either pop-ups or JavaScript functionality for the delivery or for the security of exam. So this also wasn't an option. Our third attempt was kind of a success. Knowing the advancements that Apple has brought to iPad OS, we attempted to use the split screen functionality to put the camera on one side and put Safari on the other. And we found some success with this, but it really wasn't ideal from a student or a proctor perspective. The camera couldn't be resized, so it was mostly a waste of space. And additionally, it's not super easy to explain to a student how to run two apps side by side, especially given the pressures of a high-stakes exam. We finally determined that there was no out-of-the-box, easy solution that we could deploy and that would meet all of these requirements. And we needed to satisfy, again, just three. We needed to see the student, we needed to hear the student, and we needed to see their screen for the duration of the exam. As you can imagine, this was a very stressful time for Sewanhaka as well as their students. They were being asked to solve a problem that had never really been considered before, with very little time to get it right, with a lot on the line. Students' ability to go to college. So without a ton of options, Sewanhaka agreed to be a testbed for some new workflows if we could help them solve this problem for remote secure assessment.
Thanks, Sam. As Sam mentioned, we're working with iPads, and iPad OS is a great mobile operating system, but its camera and camera preview work differently than other devices, so we had to think out of the box. When we went to use any video conferencing platform, started the camera and shared the screen, the camera feed cut off instantly. You could see the iPad screen in full, but no camera. This was a non-starter for College Board, as they couldn't see the student. I wondered if there was a way to get a side-by-side projecting the full screen with the camera app using multitasking. However, that didn't work either. But then I remembered something. When COVID-19 hit, I did some work to assist hospitals and the healthcare industry, and part of that process involved researching a bunch of video conferencing platforms. The end result of that research was a new Jamf product, Virtual Visits. That specific tool was a way to connect patients to their families and patients to their caregivers in an easy-to-use and convenient manner. At the time, we needed to enable remote healthcare both in and out of the hospital. One of my findings was that some platforms allowed the conference to happen inside of the browser, and that meant that the camera too was captured in the browser. And this is what led me to my proof of concept. The image you see on the screen, let's call it version 0.1 of this assessment assistant. It's a web-based tool that was deployable via a web clip to a student's device, and on the screen, it guided them through the process of enabling the camera while screen sharing during the exam. Safari is one of those apps that allow you to not only have a side-by-side window on an iPad, or in this case, two tabs, but it allowed for one of those tabs, or both, to be expanded or compressed to allow for more content on the second tab to be displayed. This meant that the student would be able to have just a few more clicks to allow a quarter to a third of the screen to be the camera, and the remaining 3/4 or 2/3 to be the web-based proctored exam by College Board. This checked all of the boxes, and College Board accepted this. It was a success. The students with iPads would be able to take their tests remotely and safely while meeting all of the College Board standards. Now, how did it work? Students start the video conference with the proctor using an individual link that they were sent. Within that video conferencing platform, the student joins audio and then initiates the screen share. From there, they leave the video conferencing app and open the web clip to this tool. This page has instructions to how to create a multitasking or two-window Safari page, and once the two pages are set up and the student logs into the proctored College Board exam, they start the camera through the AccuAssist web app. It's exhausting. It works, but it's a lot of steps, and I wondered if there was a way we can make it even easier. For that, I reached out to one of my peers at Jamf that I knew could make this happen, Aaron Maxim. Aaron, this works. Now we need to make it even easier, and we really don't have much time.
Jonathan, that was putting it mildly regarding the time constraint. Before I dive into the story of the development and release of the app, I want to thank Brian, Sam, and Jonathan for telling an amazing story leading up to the final solution. Furthermore, I want to publicly express my gratitude to Jonathan for asking me to assist with architecting and building the app that is based on his awesome idea. And now to the solution. Before any code was written for assessment, we needed to establish some high-level strategy. First, Brian had a student waiting to determine his college placement status, so we needed to get something built soon. Not really soon, it was more like yesterday. Second, there was no luxury of time to include a bunch of features. We just needed to focus on the core need. We can quickly iterate later if needed. We will talk about that in a little bit. Third, Apple App Store approval was needed for external distribution. So we stuck with Apple recommendations and standards. Fourth, do not gather nor store any student data outside what the exam already does. It seems obvious, but we needed to be careful with the app architecture. Lastly, make the app available to the Apple EDU community at no cost, and that even includes non-Jamf managed organizations. Jamf just wanted to help where we could make an impact during these tough times. Now let's talk for a couple minutes about some of the tech in the app so we can give you an idea how we got this concept to work. First, Manage App Config gives us the power to remotely configure the app settings. This makes the app require MDM for managed distribution, but adds end-user ease of use and flexibility for the administrator. App Config is pure magic. Keeps the app generic for wide distribution and gives schools the power to manage the whole organization from a central location. Second, there's a dedicated screen space locked into the assessment exam website. There's no ability to navigate elsewhere. It focuses the test taker on the exam while decluttering the screen. Next, College Board's placement exam offering requires pop-up window support. We added support for that and also included JavaScript capabilities. Fourth, the proctor's live viewing capability of the student taking the assessment exam is provided by a camera preview window. The app does not capture any videos or any photos. The student sees exactly what the proctor sees. Nothing more is shared, so the app is completely transparent to the test taker. Lastly, we took all those pieces, laid them out in a single screen user interface, and made the screen available in a single app. The end result. The test taker taps, a single tap, to open the app, and all is configured and ready to screen share. The student has much on her or his mind, and configuring a bunch of iPad stuff is not fun when you're stressed before taking an important test. Let's talk about how we laid out the app's user interface. A lot of customization is available via Manage App Config to make the student experience the best it can be. First, the browser window is directed to a remotely configured URL. This is the only required setting via MDM. Second, the exam window size can be changed via remote configuration, aka Manage App Config. The camera preview window dynamically changes to fill in the remaining space. Nothing for the student to configure or set up. Third, the camera is always on by default. This is a core requirement of the College Board AccuPlacer exam. In addition, other customizations including color scheme and title label. When we built the first version and demoed to Brian along with the folks at College Board, feedback was very positive. And we were told the app was the only known solution to solve the complete challenge of remote proctoring on iPadOS. This was very exciting news. And I know Brian was very eager to implement, and he did immediately after the app was approved by the App Store. During the initial demos of the app, we received some feature requests that we could quickly add on later. While Brian implemented the first iteration within his environment, we added a few things to the next version or the upcoming version of the app. First, we added the ability for the student to be able to toggle off the camera. This capability is off by default, but the toggle can be remotely enabled via Manage App Config. Second, we added the ability to detect if the student has captured a screenshot while they're taking the exam. This setting is configurable with a couple options. One option to just warn the student to say that you should be doing this, and it's another option to actually stop the exam from continuing because they took a screenshot. Third, we added the ability for the student to enter their own URL and navigate within the exam. This capability is off by default, but is configurable via remote configuration, which presents the user interface to allow the URL input and page navigation. We are very happy to say all these features are in the current shipping version of Assessment powered by Jamf. Now back to Sam to talk about how to get the app.
As previously mentioned, the assessment app is being provided to any district at no charge, and you don't even need to be a Jamf customer. It just needs to be deployed by an MDM, but we'd highly suggest using Jamf. You can get access to it by going to jamf.it/assessment. That will have the latest instructions on how to get the assessment app for your district today. This has been an extremely rewarding project that all of us on this session are proud to have been participants in some form or fashion. And again, we want to say thank you to Brian and the students at Sewanhaka for trusting us to guide you through a high-stakes proctored assessment on iPadOS. We started with one student that just had a need to go to college next year. And that student has actually paved the way for students not just at Sewanhaka, but at districts across the world that have requested access to the assessment app and are being successful with their assessment needs. We've opened up a world of possibilities with this app, and we're really excited to hear your feedback and hear how it's being useful for you in your districts. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We appreciate your attendance. If you wouldn't mind giving us feedback on this session by using the survey widget right below. Thank you very much.